The universe had forgotten what it meant to underestimate humanity. For 3 decades, Earth had bowed its head, smiled through clenched teeth, and played the role of the grateful servant. But gratitude was just another weapon in humanity's arsenal, and today, Colonel Rebecca Ashford was wielding it like a master. She sat in the crystalline chamber of the Dominion Council, surrounded by beings who believed themselves gods among insects. The room pulsed with bioluminescent light from the walls, casting strange shadows across the faces of the alien overlords. To her left sat Crithin, a creature resembling a massive praying mantis with silver exoskeleton plates that clicked when he moved. Across from her lounged the gelatinous mass of Quelix, whose translator device floated in the center of his transparent body, converting his chemical signals into words that dripped with condescension. Rebecca adjusted the collar of her plain gray uniform, the kind the aliens insisted all human representatives wear. Simple. Humble. Inferior. She had worn it so many times that it felt like a second skin, but beneath that skin, her augmented nervous system was alive with data streams. Every human on Earth and beyond was connected through the quantum network, invisible to alien sensors, sharing information at the speed of thought. The meeting began with Crithin's announcement, his mandibles clicking in what passed for satisfaction among his kind. The Dominion has decided to reduce Earth's resource allocation by 30%. Your breeding will also be monitored more closely. We have determined that human population growth exceeds necessary levels for your current utility. Rebecca felt the anger of millions of humans flood through the network. Every person connected to the quantum stream experienced the same flash of rage, the same desire to rise up and scream the truth. But discipline held. Discipline and the knowledge that their time was coming. She bowed her head, letting her dark hair fall forward to hide the briefest flash of defiance in her eyes. The people of Earth are grateful for the Dominion's wisdom. We exist to serve. Quelix bubbled with pleasure, his gelatinous form rippling. You humans have finally learned your place. When we first arrived, there was such foolish talk of partnership, of mutual respect. Now you understand the natural order. Rebecca remembered that day 30 years ago. She had been just a child, watching the sky fill with ships that blotted out the sun. Her father had been an aerospace engineer, and she remembered his face as he watched the broadcasts. Not fear. Not wonder. But calculation. Even then, even in that first moment, humanity's greatest minds were already thinking ahead. The aliens had made their first mistake before they even landed. They assumed that a species without faster-than-light travel was primitive. They assumed that because humans used chemical rockets and nuclear power, they were centuries behind. They never bothered to look deeper, to understand that human ingenuity wasn't measured in the technologies they used, but in how quickly they could learn and adapt. Those first years had been carefully orchestrated theater. Human scientists eagerly accepted alien technology, displaying wonder and gratitude while their minds dissected every component, every principle, every weakness. The aliens gave Earth fusion reactors, and humans thanked them profusely while building antimatter generators in secret facilities deep beneath the ocean floor. The aliens shared basic shield technology, and humans reverse-engineered it into something that could stop a supernova. Rebecca's augmented mind pinged with an incoming priority message from Station Olympus, hidden in the shadow of Jupiter's moon Ganymede. The message was simple but devastating. They know about the colony ship. Interceptor fleet launching in 6 hours. Her heart rate spiked for just a second before training took over. She kept her face serene, her posture submissive, while her mind raced through possibilities. The new dawn carried 20,000 souls, families seeking a new life on Kepler 442b. Those families included her sister, her nephew, people she loved. The aliens had approved the colony mission because they thought it would scatter humanity, make them easier to control. Now they were going to destroy it as a lesson. Crithin continued speaking, oblivious to the storm brewing behind Rebecca's calm expression. Earth will also provide genetic samples from your most intelligent specimens. We wish to study what makes you suitable for technical labor while remaining appropriately docile. Docile. The word echoed through the quantum network, touching every human mind connected to the system. Rebecca felt the response, not in words but in pure emotion. Determination. Fury. Readiness. She stood slowly, drawing surprised looks from the alien counselors. Humans never stood without permission. Honored counselors, I have a question if I may be so bold. Quelix's form shimmered with irritation, but Crithin gestured with one bladed arm. Speak, human. Rebecca chose her words carefully, each one carrying multiple meanings for the humans listening through the quantum link. When the Dominion looks at Earth, what do you see? I ask because we want to understand how we can better serve our purpose. Crithin's compound eyes refracted the light as his head tilted. We see a useful species. Clever enough to operate our machinery, numerous enough to fill labor quotas, but lacking the vision for true greatness. You are tools, human. Very good tools, but tools nonetheless. Rebecca nodded, committing every word to memory, knowing that billions of humans were hearing this, feeling this, understanding what their masters truly thought of them. Thank you for your honesty, counselor. It helps us know our place. The meeting ended with the usual formalities, and Rebecca made her way back to her transport pod. It was a simple vessel, barely faster than the atmospheric shuttles humans had used before first contact. At least, that's what the external sensors would report. Inside, the pod was a marvel of human engineering, capable of speeds that would leave most alien fighters struggling to keep up. As she lifted off from the Dominion station and began the journey back to Earth, Rebecca opened a secure channel to her counterpart in the Pacific Defense Grid. Colonel James Okafor appeared on her screen, his dark face grave. They're really going to do it, he said without preamble. Hit the colony ship to teach us a lesson. Rebecca's jaw tightened. Then we teach them one first. How long until Ghost Fleet is ready? The last stealth frigate finished trials this morning. We have 400 ships that don't officially exist, and another 600 that the aliens think are just cargo haulers. We can have battle-ready forces in position within 4 hours. Rebecca made her decision, knowing it would change everything, knowing there was no going back. Send the activation codes. Humanity's done bowing. As Earth grew larger in her viewport, Rebecca thought about all the people down there living their normal lives. Parents putting children to bed. Workers finishing their shifts. Students studying for exams. They had no idea that tomorrow, their species would step out of the shadows and show the galaxy what humans really were. The aliens had made them wear masks of servitude for 30 years. Tomorrow, those masks would come off, and the Dominion would learn what happened when you mistake patience for weakness. The new dawn drifted through the darkness between stars, its navigation lights blinking peacefully as 20,000 sleeping souls dreamed of their new world. Captain David Rothschild stood on the bridge, watching the stars and thinking about his daughter in cryosleep 2 decks below. She was only 7 years old, and this journey was supposed to give her a future free from alien oversight. His first officer, Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka, approached with a data pad, her expression troubled. Captain, we're picking up unusual readings. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel, bearing directly for us. David's stomach dropped. Identification? Dominion signatures. Looks like a hunter-killer group. 3 cruisers, 12 fighters. Yuki's voice remained steady, but her knuckles were white as she gripped the data pad. They're not responding to hails. David activated the ship-wide intercom, keeping his voice calm even as his mind raced. All hands to emergency stations. Begin wake-up procedures for essential personnel only. He turned to Yuki. How long until they're in weapons range? 17 minutes. 17 minutes. David looked at the peaceful stars and felt the weight of 20,000 lives pressing down on him. The New Dawn was a colony ship, not a warship. They had basic defensive shields, enough to protect against micrometeorites and radiation, but nothing that could stand up to Dominion military hardware. His console chimed with an incoming message on a channel that wasn't supposed to exist. A quantum-encrypted line that Earth's government had installed secretly during the ship's construction. David accepted the connection and Colonel Rebecca Ashford appeared on his screen. "Captain Rothschild, I need you to trust me and follow my instructions exactly," she said without preamble. David glanced at his navigation display. "Colonel, that heading takes us deeper into open space. We should be trying to reach the nearest station. The nearest station is controlled by the Dominion. They're the ones who sent the ships hunting you." Rebecca's eyes were hard. "David, we don't have time for explanations. Can you trust me?" David thought of his daughter, of all the children sleeping peacefully below. What's happening? Humanity is taking off its mask. Now adjust your heading. The Dominion cruisers closed in, their weapon systems powering up. The lead ship, a massive thing shaped like a curved blade, sent a final transmission. "Colony vessel New Dawn, you are in violation of Dominion expansion protocols. Prepare to be destroyed." David's hands moved across his controls, inputting the course change Rebecca had specified. Heading 77 Mark III, maximum acceleration. "But Colonel, we can't outrun Dominion cruisers." Rebecca's smile was predatory. "You don't have to outrun them, Captain. You just have to survive for 3 more minutes." The New Dawn's engines flared to full power, pushing the massive colony ship forward with acceleration that would have been impossible with conventional human technology. The Dominion cruisers adjusted their pursuit, weapons locking on. David watched helplessly as energy readings spiked on his sensors. Then space itself seemed to tear open. One moment there was empty darkness. The next, ships appeared from nowhere, dozens of them, sleek and deadly and utterly human. They bore no insignia, no identification markers, just bare metal hulls that seemed to drink in the starlight. These were not the clumsy cargo vessels the aliens had allowed humanity to build. These were warships, real warships, and they moved with a grace and speed that made the Dominion cruisers look like drifting asteroids. Lieutenant Tanaka's voice was barely a whisper. "What are those?" David felt something swell in his chest, something he hadn't felt in 30 years. Pride. "Those are ours." The lead human vessel, a sleek destroyer that looked like a hunting shark, swept past the New Dawn at impossible speed. It didn't slow, didn't pause, just opened fire with weapons that turned space itself blue-white with energy. The Dominion cruiser's shields lit up, held for perhaps 2 seconds, then collapsed like tissue paper. The human weapons punched through the alien hull, and the massive warship simply came apart, breaking into pieces that tumbled through space. The other Dominion ships scattered, trying to bring their weapons to bear, but they were facing an enemy they didn't understand. The human fighters moved like nothing the galaxy had ever seen, dancing between enemy fire with precision that seemed almost supernatural. Their weapons carved through alien shields and armor with contemptuous ease. In less than 5 minutes, it was over. 3 Dominion cruisers and 12 fighters reduced to expanding clouds of debris. Not a single human ship showed damage. A new voice crackled over the New Dawn's communication system. "Colony ship New Dawn, this is Battlegroup Phantom. You are now under the protection of Earth's Free Fleet. Adjust course to follow our navigation beacon. Welcome to humanity's real future." David slumped in his chair, his heart hammering. Around him, the bridge crew erupted in cheers and tears. Yuki was crying openly, her professional composure finally breaking. "Sir," she said through her tears, "what just happened?" David looked at the human warships forming a protective formation around his colony vessel, and he understood. All those years of humanity bowing and scraping, all that servitude and submission, it had been a lie. A beautiful, patient, perfectly executed lie. "We just stopped pretending," he said. Across the galaxy, the revelation spread like wildfire. At the Dominion mining station on Vega Prime, human workers suddenly stopped responding to orders. The alien overseers tried to reassert control, only to discover that the mining equipment was transforming, unfolding into weapons platforms. What the aliens had thought was a labor camp was actually a fortress, and the humans defending it were not workers but soldiers who had been waiting 30 years for this moment. On the trade hub of Nexus Point, human merchants who had seemed content to accept whatever scraps the Dominion offered suddenly seized control of the station's main reactor. Their cargo ships, which the aliens had barely bothered to scan, revealed hidden weapons and shields. Within an hour, one of the Dominion's most important trading posts was flying Earth's flag. The Dominion's response was swift and brutal. War fleets launched from a dozen worlds, converging on human positions throughout the galaxy. But they were fighting an enemy they didn't understand, an enemy that had spent 30 years studying their every move, learning their tactics, finding their weaknesses. In the Centauri system, a Dominion battle fleet of 40 warships encountered what sensors told them was a small group of human cargo vessels. The admiral in command ordered an immediate attack, expecting easy victories. Instead, the cargo vessels dropped their disguises, revealing themselves as humanity's newest dreadnoughts. Ships twice the size of anything the Dominion had ever built, armed with weapons that made atomic bombs look like fireworks. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Dominion fleet was gone, and the human ships had barely scratched their paint. Back on Earth, Rebecca stood in the command center deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, watching holographic displays showing battles erupting across known space. Around her, thousands of officers and technicians worked at stations controlling humanity's secret war machine. This facility alone was larger than any city, built in absolute secrecy over 3 decades. General Patricia Zhao, the architect of humanity's long deception, stood beside her. The elderly woman's face showed no triumph, only grim satisfaction. The Dominion is requesting negotiations. They're calling what we did a terrorist uprising. Rebecca allowed herself a small smile. What are we calling it? Independence Day, Zhao replied. Every human facility, every ship, every hidden base has declared freedom from Dominion control. We're not asking for our liberty. We're taking it. The chamber was silent except for the soft hum of technology that had once seemed so advanced. Crithen stood before the Dominion High Council, his silver exoskeleton dulled with shame. Around him, the most powerful beings in the known galaxy waited for his explanation. How? The question came from Elder Vex, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix. How did a primitive species hide an entire military fleet? How did we not see this? Crithen's mandibles clicked nervously. They never stopped being primitive in our eyes, Elder. That was their greatest advantage. We saw what we expected to see. Quelix bubbled in his containment sphere, his chemical signals translating to words of anger. I reviewed the reports personally. Human vessels were inspected. Their facilities were monitored. How did they hide technology that surpasses our own? A new voice entered the conversation, soft but carrying absolute authority. High Chancellor Zephrix materialized in the center of the chamber, her form composed of flowing liquid metal that constantly shifted and reformed. She was the supreme leader of the Dominion, a being who had lived for 3,000 years and guided the Empire through countless challenges. They hid it, she said quietly, because we taught them how. The council chamber erupted in protests, but Zephrix raised a hand and silence fell. Every technology we gave them, every secret we shared thinking they were too primitive to understand, they absorbed and improved. We gave them fusion power, and they built antimatter reactors. We gave them basic shields, and they created barriers that can contain a star. We taught them to be servants, and they became masters of deception. She turned to face Crithen directly. Tell them about the battle at Centauri. Crithen's entire body seemed to shrink. 40 ships. Our finest battle fleet. They encountered 6 human vessels and engaged. When the battle ended, all 40 of our ships were destroyed. The human vessels suffered minor damage to 2 ships, both of which were repaired within hours. The silence that followed was profound. For the first time in millennia, the Dominion faced an enemy they couldn't simply overwhelm with superior numbers or technology. "What are their demands?" Elder Vex asked. Zephrix projected a holographic document into the center of the chamber. "Complete withdrawal from all human-claimed systems. Formal recognition of Earth and its colonies as a sovereign nation. Reparations for 30 years of forced servitude. And this." She highlighted a section that made several council members gasp. "They want seats on this council. Equal status with every Dominion species." "Impossible," Quelix spluttered. "They are laborers, not leaders. We have guided the galaxy for 10,000 years. And in 30 years, they surpassed us." Zephrix's words cut like knives. "While we rested on our laurels, while we basked in our superiority, they worked. They learned. They grew. And we were too arrogant to notice." Back on Earth, in a small apartment in Tokyo, a woman named Keiko Yamamoto held her grandson while watching the news broadcasts. She was 93 years old, and she remembered the day the aliens came. She remembered her son, an engineer, disappearing into secret government projects. She remembered the whispered promises that humanity would not remain subjugated forever. Her grandson, Little Hero, pointed at the screen showing human warships in formation. "Grandma, are those really ours?" Keiko smiled, tears running down her weathered cheeks. "Yes, my darling. Your grandfather helped build them. He never lived to see this day, but he believed it would come." All across Earth, similar scenes played out. Families gathering to watch humanity's ships patrol the solar system openly for the first time. Workers in the secret facilities finally able to tell their loved ones what they had been building all these years. Children learning that their parents were heroes who had fought a different kind of war, a war of patience and preparation. In the Lunar Command Center, Rebecca watched the Dominion's response fleet approaching the edge of the solar system. 300 ships, the largest force ever assembled. They had been ordered to force humanity back into submission. The quantum network hummed with the thoughts and feelings of billions of humans, all connected, all aware, all ready. Rebecca felt their determination, their courage, their absolute refusal to ever bow again. "Ghost Fleet, this is command," she spoke into the network. "You are authorized to engage." From hidden positions throughout the solar system, humanity's true strength revealed itself. Not 400 ships. Not 600. 2,000 warships, each one a masterpiece of human engineering, each one crewed by people who had spent their entire lives preparing for this moment. The Dominion fleet stopped at the edge of the Kuiper Belt, their sensors finally comprehending what they faced. The numbers didn't lie. Humanity had built the most powerful navy in known space, and they had done it right under the Dominion's nose. High Chancellor Zephrix appeared on every human display, her liquid metal form rippling with what might have been respect. "Humanity of Earth, the Dominion acknowledges its error. We came to you as masters and treated you as servants. We see now that this was unjust. We wish to negotiate a new relationship." General Zhao responded, her elderly face calm. "The Dominion will withdraw from all human systems immediately. You will pay reparations for the resources you extracted and the lives you controlled. You will grant humanity equal status in all galactic affairs. These are not negotiations. These are terms." Zephrix was silent for a long moment. Then, incredibly, she bowed. A gesture of respect from a being who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. "Your terms are accepted. Welcome to the galactic community, humanity. As equals." 6 months after the revelation, the first true diplomatic summit between humanity and the Dominion species took place on neutral ground, a space station that had been built jointly by human and alien engineers. It was a symbol of what could be achieved when species work together as partners rather than masters and servants. Rebecca walked through the station's main corridor, no longer wearing the plain gray uniform of subjugation. Instead, she wore the deep blue dress uniform of Earth's Unified Space Command, with rank insignia that marked her as one of humanity's senior officers. Alien delegates passed her in the halls, and many of them nodded respectfully. Some even smiled, if their physiology allowed for it. She entered the main conference chamber where representatives from Earth and a dozen other worlds gathered. At the center of the room stood a monument, a simple pillar of stone taken from Earth with words carved in every known language: never mistake patience for weakness, or silence for acceptance. Crithin approached her, his movements careful and respectful. "Colonel Ashford, I wanted to speak with you before the summit begins." Rebecca turned to face the being who had once demanded humanity's submission. "I'm listening." "I have studied your history," Crithin said, his translator making his clicking sounds into words. "I have learned about your wars, your struggles, your tendency toward conflict. When we first came to Earth, we believed we were saving you from yourselves by imposing order. We thought we were being kind." "You thought wrong," Rebecca said simply. "Yes." Crithin's mandibles clicked in a pattern Rebecca had learned meant shame. "But I have also learned something else. In all your history, humanity has shown one consistent trait. You rise to meet challenges. You adapt. You overcome. The Dominion tried to suppress that nature, and in doing so, we created something far more powerful than if we had simply worked with you from the beginning." Rebecca considered this. "What's your point?" "My point is that I am grateful. Not for what we did to you, but for what you became in spite of it. You have made the galaxy better, stronger. You have reminded ancient species like mine that we can still learn and grow. You have shown us that wisdom is not the same as age." He extended one of his bladed arms in a gesture that Rebecca recognized as an offer of partnership among his people. She reached out and carefully touched the blade with her palm, feeling its sharp edge without flinching. "The Dominion wasted 30 years trying to control humanity," she said. "Let's make sure the next 30 are better." The summit proceeded with historic agreements. Trade partnerships were established on equal footing. Technology would be shared freely rather than doled out like treats to children. Human colonies would expand into new systems with full support and recognition from all galactic species. But perhaps most importantly, the Dominion's long-standing policy of identifying and subjugating lesser species was formally abolished. Never again would they make first contact with conquest in mind. Humanity's resistance had changed not just Earth's future, but the future of countless species yet to be discovered. On Earth, in a small garden in Kenya, Captain David Rothschild watched his daughter play with other children from the New Dawn colony. They had completed their journey to Kepler 442b and established humanity's first truly independent colony world. Now David had returned home to Earth to attend his promotion ceremony. His daughter, Sophie, ran up to him with a flower in her hand. "Daddy, Miss Tanaka says that you helped save everyone on the ship. Is that true?" David knelt down to her level. "A lot of people saved everyone, sweetheart. But yes, I helped." "Were you scared?" He thought about those terrible minutes when Dominion warships had been closing in, when he had believed that his daughter might die before she ever got to see her new home. "Yes, I was very scared." "But you did it anyway?" "Being brave doesn't mean not being scared, Sophie. It means doing what's right even when you are scared." Sophie hugged him tightly, and David felt the weight of the past months finally lifting from his shoulders. They had done it. Against impossible odds, against an empire that had ruled for 10,000 years, humanity had claimed its freedom. In the Pacific Command Center, General Zhao stood before a wall displaying the names of everyone who had worked in secret for 3 decades to build humanity's hidden strength. Engineers who had died in accidents that couldn't be publicly mourned. Soldiers who had trained in secret facilities their families never knew existed. Scientists who had made breakthrough after breakthrough without recognition or acclaim. "They never got to see this day," Colonel Ashford said, joining her at the memorial wall. No, Zhao agreed. But they made it possible. Every person on this wall believed in something bigger than themselves. They believed humanity deserved to stand on its own. Rebecca looked at the thousands of names, each one representing a life dedicated to humanity's freedom. What do we do now, General? We built all of this to fight for our independence. What happens now that we have it? Zhao smiled, and for the first time Rebecca could remember, the elderly general's expression showed genuine peace. Now we build something even more impressive. We build a future where no species ever has to hide its strength or bow to another. We explore. We discover. We create. We show the galaxy what humanity can do when we're not fighting for survival. She turned to look at Rebecca directly. The war is over, Colonel. But our greatest work is just beginning. As night fell on Earth, people all across the planet looked up at the stars with new eyes. Those points of light were no longer the homes of their masters. They were destinations, opportunities, futures waiting to be claimed. Humanity had spent 30 years wearing a mask, playing a role, pretending to be less than they were. Now the mask was gone. The truth was revealed. And the galaxy would never be the same. In a classroom in Buenos Aires, a teacher asked her students what they wanted to be when they grew up. A little boy raised his hand enthusiastically. I want to be a starship captain, like the ones who saved the colony ship. The teacher smiled. Then you should study hard. The stars are waiting for us now. Across the solar system, in the secret shipyards that were secret no longer, construction continued. But these ships were not weapons of war. They were vessels of exploration, colony ships, research vessels. Humanity was done fighting for the right to exist. Now they would embrace the chance to thrive. Rebecca stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital station, watching the planet turn below her. Blue and green and beautiful, home to billions of people who had lived under alien rule and never stopped being human. Never stopped dreaming. Never stopped preparing for the day they would stand as equals among the stars. Her quantum neural link chimed softly, and she felt the presence of every other connected human, billions of minds linked in understanding and purpose. They had won not through violence, though they had been ready for it, but through patience, intelligence, and an absolute refusal to accept subjugation. The message flowing through the network was simple, repeated by billions of voices in perfect unison: we are humanity. We rise to meet every challenge. We adapt to overcome every obstacle. We are free, and we will never bow again. And somewhere in the distant reaches of space, on worlds that had never heard of Earth, young species were just beginning to reach for the stars. They would find a galaxy different from the one humanity had encountered. They would find a galaxy where the powerful didn't automatically dominate the weak, where newcomers were welcomed as partners rather than exploited as resources. They would find this because humanity had changed everything. Not by accepting their fate, but by patiently, carefully, brilliantly preparing to reject it. The age of dominion was over. The age of equals had begun. And it had all started with humans who refused to believe that patience meant weakness, who understood that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in the fist you show, but in the one you keep hidden until the moment it's needed. Humanity had waited 30 years for their moment. And when it came, they didn't just seize their freedom. They transformed the entire galaxy's understanding of what it meant to be strong, to be patient, to be human. The stars were calling. And finally, after so long, humanity was free to answer.